Peace, family. We are live again. In that intro, that video, we are rolling to South Africa in November for Dunes. Well, actually, we're going to Namibia and South Africa for Dunes and Amapiano. So one night when we get to Cape Town, it's going to be Amapiano night, and I'm looking forward to it. So that video right there is to get y'all ready. If you're interested in joining us, we have 5 spots left. Let me check the WhatsApp group real quick. Give me 1 second. Namibia. Here we go. Namibia. Yeah, we have 5 spots left. So if you're interested in joining us in Namibia and South Africa, a 2-for-1. 2-for-1 collab trip. You know, we're gonna climb dunes, ride ATVs in the dunes, and then you know, we're gonna head to Cape Town. So we're gonna start off in Windhoek. Then from Windhoek, we're going to Walvis. No, yeah, we're going to another city to see the Himba. Then we're headed to Walvis Bay, and then from Walvis Bay, we're gonna fly to Cape Town, and we're gonna end the trip in Cape Town. You know, go to Robben Island, do Amapiano, go to Clifton Beach, hang out on the beach, and then head back to America. So looking forward to that. If you want to learn more, like I said, we got 2 spots left. Visit Danfo, that's DANFO. Danfo, that's DANFO .Africa. Also, we are rolling to, where else are we going? We're going to Senegal here for the Jazz Festival in about, we're going May 27th to June 4th. May 27th to June 4th, we're going to Senegal for the Jazz Festival. Then we're going to Nigeria in August for the Oshun Festival, which you see right here. And then we're going to Zanzibar for Safari Blue. That's September 21st to the 30th. The Oshun Festival is August 3rd through the 12th. And then we're headed to Namibia and South Africa. That's going to be November 7th through the 18th. So looking forward to that. You know, Namibia is probably the best kept secret in Africa. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a West Africa guy. But for all the, you know, retirees and, you know, and I'm retiring and, you know, all this, you know, I want a slower pace. You know, I need infrastructure. Namibia by far is the best bet for you. You'll love Namibia. Again, if you're retiring and you're looking for a country to go to, Namibia by far will be the best bet if you ask me. So please visit Danfo, that's DANFO .Africa, DANFO .Africa. And pretty soon, AJ, well, see, I haven't been to Rwanda yet, but I'm gonna I'm gonna say no to Rwanda. And the reason why I'm gonna say no to Rwanda, because Rwanda might be some stuff right now, what was going on in the Eastern Congo. And you know, they said Kagame, and I used to defend Kagame a lot. I used to be the biggest defender of Kagame. But it's clear now that he's funding those rebels in the Eastern Congo. I don't know why. You know, I'm guessing it's over minerals. That's what I'm told. But it's obvious he's funding those rebels in the Eastern Congo. So you never know how folks are going to retaliate. That's the problem. Yeah, he got the U.S. in his pocket. Yeah, you never know how folks are going to retaliate. That's the problem. So what he's doing in the Congo currently and how it's escalated right now to the point that it's at right now, you never know how folks are going to retaliate. So Rwanda, you never know what could happen. So by far, Namibia. Guys, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. So yeah, so it's interesting times right now in the Congo. But hit the like button again. Please hit that like button as you come to the chat room. Again, please hit that like button. I will greatly appreciate it. And again, please visit Donfo.Africa. So once again, for Senegal, we have 2 spots left. Nigeria is wide open. Zanzibar, we have 6 spots left. And then for Namibia and South Africa, we have 5 spots left. So yeah, go to Donfo.Africa to learn more. Also, allegedly, don't know yet. Hopefully, well, I'm gonna say hopefully. Hopefully, we should hear back from Sierra Leone and get a final say on what they're gonna do moving forward when it comes to citizenship. So we should hear back on Friday. At least that's what I'm being told. So we'll see. Can't promise anything, but we will see. All right, y'all. Let's jump into today's topic. Are you tired of racism in America? Are you tired, that DEI got removed? DEI in which a white man, a middle-aged white man could just wake up one day. A middle-aged white man could just wake up one day, just could wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to be a woman today. And he gets to skip the line in front of you. Because Black people benefited the least from DEI. Those are the numbers. White women in the LGBTQ community benefited the most. So a 50-year-old white man could wake up today, or could have woken up today, because Trump got rid of it. Well, on a federal level. And as you can see, some corporations are getting rid of it as well. But could just wake up and say, you know what? I want to be a woman today. I'm going to go by the pronouns he, she. And now they're eligible and fall under protections stated under DEI. So you're mad that DEI is gone. You mad that the United States of America ain't ready for a Black woman to be president? What else? You mad that America is actually protecting its borders, that every country does? I've almost been deported twice in Africa because countries protect their borders. And there's a certain way you have to enter and exit without having any issues. If you're tired of all that, if you feel like if you think the Black man, the white man has his foot on the Black man's neck here in America for the past 500 years, and you're like, I just got to get out of here because of the racism in America, I'm going to move to Mexico. And this is what I've been hearing and seeing. I'm going to go to Tala, Mexico to avoid the racism. And then I just started asking a simple question. How are Afro-Latinos treated in Mexico? How close is Mexico to having a Black woman as president? And what I found out, Black people, Afro-Latinos in Mexico have it worse than the Africans in America. So I just started to ask, why would you want to move to Mexico? I have a friend who had a business in Tulum, Mexico, because that's the hot spot now. That's a popular spot now. Everybody want to go to Tulum, Mexico. Everybody wants to go to Tulum, Mexico. From my understanding, it's completely overpriced now. You gringos then fucked it up. Excuse my language. You gringos then fucked up Tulum, Mexico. But I had a buddy that had a business down there, and he said the cartels were giving him hell. He said the cartels were giving him hell. He had to get out. He had to leave. He just shut it down and left. So I'm trying to figure out, why would you leave America to move to Mexico? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I could be wrong. If somebody's living in Mexico right now, if you want to call in and explain the draw of Mexico as far as relocating to from America, I'll put the link in the chat room. Click on the link. You're more than welcome to call in. Just click on the link. Links in the chat room. But yeah, I don't understand. Call in. You're so misinformed, Dinus. Inform me. That's why we're here. If I'm misinformed, listen, you're more than welcome to call me and inform me. And prove to me that Afro-Latinos in Mexico or Afro-Mexicanos in Mexico are doing better in Mexico than Black folks in America. Please share with me how Afro-Mexicanos, where I have more, I would say, upward mobility in Mexico, Tulum, wherever, in Mexico, period, than we do in America. I'm just saying, just prove me wrong. I want you to. Tulum, 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 Tulum. I'm sorry, however you say it. Now, is Mexico, from my understanding, a good place to go to and party? Go to Tijuana, kick it? From what I understand, yes. I've been to Mexico a couple times. You know, I don't miss it. I'm not in a hurry to get back. But you think segregation is bad you think racism and segregation is bad in America? I just want to know, how is it in Mexico for the Afro-Mexicano? Call in. Click on the link. Links in the chat room. You're more than welcome to call in. Sheinbaum instructed the creation of the Presidential Commission of Justice plans in regional development for indigenous and Afro Mexican peoples. Hold on. Let's hold on. I want to pull something up real quick. Okay, but how are Afro Mexicanos doing in Mexico right now? You pointed out to one program. How are Afro Mexicanos doing in Mexico? Latam, go ahead.
You know I was gonna come in.
I know. Go ahead. How are Afro Mexicanos doing in Mexico? Honestly.
Okay, so let's start with the facts first of all.
Go ahead.
The Afro Mexican community right now represents 2% of the whole population of Mexico, which is about 110 million, 130 million people living in Mexico. Most of them, or the majority, about 1 million of them are women, and a little less than 1 million are men. To understand in that sense. Now, racism in Mexico. Yes. there's a particularity in Mexico that we see the combination of racism, aka colorism, combined with classism, as well as the impacts of policies such as the war on drugs on those communities, alongside the fact of the problematic forms of identity regarding Afro descendancy of slavery in Latin America. Right now, putting it very simple, out of the 660 million people living in Latin America, 150 million to almost 200 million are Afro descendancy of slavery, either monoparental or mixed. But let's go back to Mexico. Simple.
Mhm.
The problems of racism are in three lines. The internal problems of racism in Mexico regarding African descendancy of slavery has to do with a historical purview, etc. But let's face it, Mexico abolished slavery as soon as they became a country. Two, it has to do with the exploitation of racism made in the United States towards Mexico. And three, it has to do then with
Hold on,
that.
hold on. What's number two again?
Number two has to do with the export of racism and prejudice made in the United States towards Mexico.
So, oh, come on. So it's America's fault that Mexico is racist towards
Again,
Afro-Mexicanos?
first, the
Oh,
internal
Lord.
forms of, again, first, the internal problems of racism in Mexico, which have to do with the historical, with the casta system that was set up by the Spaniards, and how that system persisted throughout the process of independence. However, Mexico did abolish slavery at the beginning. Second, another factor that plays into the role of racism into Mexico is the exploitation of that racism via vis-a-vis United States. So you have those two elements playing alongside each other. Therefore, the third major factor that you see in that has to do with where Afro communities are situated and what are their accessibilities to public health, to public living or households, economy wise, etc., etc., etc. And all that conversation we can go delve into it.
Go ahead. Let's delve into it.
Okay, so majority of
Do they have access to proper health care, like we'll say non-Afro Mexicanos?
it depends on what areas of they're at, because if we look at the out of the 32 states, the majority of Afro descendancies are either in the state of Guerrero, in the state of Mexico, or the state of Veracruz. To give a perspective, we're talking that they are either on the north area, Pacific side, or towards more into the Caribbean side of Mexico. So, to give that idea, we would have to establish each population in each area, but in very short and concise way. The If the populations are in a rural area, the accessibility tends to be harder for them. If
Okay.
they are in a urban section of that location, like the city of Mexico, it tends to be a bit more easier, but still face with bureaucratic problematics with the accessibility towards either private health or public health, in the sense that the attention tends to be deficient, etc.
Okay. Okay. So as far as the, I would say, I don't know, the correct term would be lifestyle. What's the word I want to use? The phrase I want to use. We'll say lifestyle. We'll say, things like upward mobility in corporate America and national politics.
In Mexico,
How does it look for Afro? How does that look for like in Afro Mexicanos in Mexico?
Well, take into consideration that Mexico is the first time they elected a woman as president after 200 and some odd years of history. So representation wise, either on local, statewide, or national wide in Afro communities has been historically low.
Okay.
Um,
Would you say
and
it's worse? Would you say it's worse in Mexico than it is in America?
equal, very equal in that sense.
Okay, when you say very equal, like,
Uh,
so,
like
and I give you an example. So people were talking about Trump saying that, you know, his cabinet doesn't represent America, but I found one black guy and an Indian guy on Trump's cabinet. I look at this Shine Bombs lady's cabinet. I didn't see not one Afro Mexicano, not one.
um, well, there are mixed people in that sense. So yes, a monoparental Afro descendancy of slavery in politics in the cabinet of Sheinbaum, Claudia Sheinbaum. Um, there there is, and yeah, that has been a particular criticism towards how the representation is set into it. Um, so what's interesting is that, how to put it in very simple words, in Mexico, and it's something that is not unique to Mexico, it's throughout Latin America, what is not named doesn't exist. So for many Mexicans, the notion that they are African descendants of slavery in Mexico is completely, it's completely inexistent because they've never been educated over that.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding that concept of society, then you understand how difficult it is for the political representation to manifest in that way.
So somebody brings up like the media, the TVs, like Univision and Telemundo. Are Afro Latinos fairly represented on, like, these stations? Because when I watch them, I don't see them. Well, I haven't watched
No,
them in years, but I'm just saying. Okay, no. So the answer is no.
no, they're not. I mean,
So
they're either represented as the criada, which means the lady who works in the house. They're represented as the drug dealer. They're represented as the criminal, or they're represented as the comedic relief.
so then my question is, and I don't know if you can answer. Maybe Brandon can answer. When black people complain about racism and not being fairly represented in America, and then move to Mexico, and it's very obvious that it's probably worse. I'm surprised that black people aren't standing up for the Afro Mexicanos and being vocal about how they're not fairly represented in Mexico. That's my question. I don't know if you can answer that, or maybe Brandon can answer it, but that's what I don't understand. When
Actually,
I hear
there's
black people say, "Man, I'm leaving America because of the racism, I'm going to Mexico," and I'm like, "Well, the Afro Mexicanos are treated like crap as well, but they're quiet about it."
actually inside Mexico, you have, for example, the Fundación Afro Amiga, which has worked tirelessly in the last 20 years, 30 years in regard to that. You have different organizations inside Mexico systematically and constantly pressuring the governments and the different governments to own up to the issues of aka racism in that sense within Mexico. So the efforts are there, and the efforts have gained gained certain and important political and social conclusions. Like a major form of representation in the political sense that is slowly growing. We've seen that growing in the last 20, 25 years. Not as exponentially as one would want, but it's getting there. The works of visualization towards, hey, these communities are here, they exist, they have been here since the era of colonization, as well as a combat inside Mexico against terms like "Viva la Raza," which are stupid in every sense of the word. because Latin Americans as well as Mexicans are not a race. And fundamentally, the works are there. So it's not like Mexico is oblivious to the internal reality of that. It's not. But here's the thing: a U.S.-based Afro-descendancy of slavery decides to migrate to Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first thing they're gonna have the problem is if they don't speak Spanish, it's gonna be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, regardless in this matter, okay, fine. Let's just focus on African descendancy of slavery of born in the United States that have been in that area of the United States. So language. Second thing, the arrogance and defaultism to U.S.-centric perspectives. That's going to eat you up alive when you come down to our countries. And you're going to get checked. Number three, the arrogance. So there are things that applies to all and anybody who wants to move to Latin America. But in the sense of Afro-descendancy and Black people in that sense, it can happen that you will leave through the out of place comments, blah blah blah. But the most thing that you will suffer is not particularly the racist approach, because mainly you'll see that Mexican people don't give a damn about the color of the skin in the day-to-day relationship. But eventually you'll meet those who may do. But the major problem is facing the cultural shift that means living United States in a place where you've pretty much spent your childhood and growing up.
Let me read this comment, then I'm going to pass it to Brandon. When you can work remotely anywhere in the world, you go where your U.S. dollars go the farthest, and the infrastructure supports your needs. So that's what it's about. So it's not necessarily about leaving America because of racism. It's about making your dollar go the furthest, which is completely fine. Like I'm not mad at that. But I just don't understand let me leave America because of racism and because they wouldn't elect a Black woman as president and they're getting rid of DEI. But I'm going to go to Mexico because that's the part I don't understand. But if it's about, hey, listen, my money goes further in these central, in Southern American countries or anywhere, like I ain't mad. Bali, Thailand, wherever, I ain't mad. But the whole racism part is like, well, Afro-Mexicanos, Afro-Latinos are treated like crap. I would say they're treated worse. In fact, they are treated worse than Black Americans because there aren't these initiatives and programs that are encoded in their constitutions, which protect or are supposed to protect Blackness. So that's where it doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, go ahead, Brandon. Unmute yourself, Brandon.
Yeah, Miss Melodied Matador, she told you that you were totally misinformed. Then she got on and made another comment, totally changing the topic, totally changing the context in which she's speaking about racism in Mexico. No one's talking about going to Mexico to work there remotely. If you leave America with your American job, because it's too racist, to go work your American job in Mexico, where you wouldn't be able to get a job even if you were a citizen. Mexico is notoriously racist. I too have friends who moved there talking about, it's better over there, it's cheaper, it's no racism over there. They were totally discriminated against. When they tried to live a normal life outside of the resorts, the expensive hotels, the expensive restaurants, they were discriminated against, getting followed through stores, people walking up trying to take pictures of them like some type of sideshow attraction. And they ultimately all ended up coming right back to the United States of America. Not to mention the cartels trying to extort them. This happens all the time. All one needs to do to know how racist Mexico is, did so is wrong. There are not 1.3 million Black Mexicans, like he was saying. Dude, there's over 10 million Black Mexicans. The problem is They just started counting them in 2015. So up until 2015, they weren't even recording their numbers because they were basically considered not a part of Mexican society. If you look at TV, Telemundo, Univision, if you look in Mexican movies, if you go to Mexico, go to Rosarito Beach, go to Tijuana, go to Tulum, you don't see any Black Mexican people. None. They're all basically relegated to like the outskirts of the urban area. They're like in the country side area. And they stay out there purposely because they're discriminated against so heavily. If you don't see a certain group of people within a country, you know that that country has done nothing to include those people into their greater society. And you know that those people don't feel safe or welcomed into the greater society. Because if you're living in a country in poverty and you could just walk into Mexico City and get a job at a coffee shop, you're going to do that. But they don't let them. And it's crazy to me how Mexicans come to America and expect all this fair treatment, but then they'll go back to Mexico and sit in there and play party to blatant discrimination against the Black Afro populations of Mexico. It's pure hypocrisy. And then this president, the new one, she's talking about all these initiatives to deal with discrimination and racism. She's only doing that because that's what she has to say to get money from the United States, from people like Joe Biden. She's not going to do anything, bro. That woman is a small hat Mexican. When you start talking about small hat Hispanics, you know that you're in some diabolical neoliberal twilight zone, which what's going to come out of it? Look at the situation. Ditto said, well, we elected the first female president. It's crazy how this guy tries to like highlight things that would be deemed progressive when it's one of the most racist countries on earth. You're supposed to deal with racial equality first, then the gender equality comes second. That's how it typically works. That's how it worked in the United States. They never even address the racial inequality. They skip right over giving their Afro-Mexicano population their rights and making sure they're not getting discriminated against. To let's elect a woman president. That woman is just put there because she was willing to do the dirty work of the oligarchs and the shadow government. This lady was a part of the most deadly election in Mexican history, where over 30 of her political opponents were killed, Dinus, leading up to the election. She didn't even run against anybody. They just killed everybody. And she got elected. That's progress. That's progress. We're gonna get our first female president by just killing everybody.
So there are several things that you said that were ultimately wrong.
First, no, I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. Was this or was this not the most deadly Mexican election in history? And did her political opponents not get killed? 30 of them.
Yeah, you know why that is happening? Do you know why?
Progress?
Hold on. I answer your question. Now let me voice it in the following sense. Because if you were fully honest in your conversation, you would indicate, for example, what happened under the Felipe Calderon's presidency and the cartels, and how that has aggravated throughout the Felipe Calderon, Peña Nieto, AMLO, and now Claudia Sheinbaum's administrations. We're talking about the recent 4 last administrations, of what the impact of the decisions of Felipe Calderon's in regards of the military approach against the cartels, how that failed, how after the 6 years of Felipe Calderon, you had over 100,000 dead, 40,000 disappeared just in Mexico during a period of 6 years between 2012 and 2018. This being said, I also find absurd that you come and tell us, oh, well, there's more than 10 million Afro-descendancy of slavery. And the source I utilized was the INEGI. INEGI is, for its acronym in Spanish, is the Instituto Nacional de Estadística y Geografía. To translate, is the National Institute of Statistics and Geography in Mexico. It's the main particular body which does the census in Mexico. So the number of 2 million Afro-descendancy of slavery comes from that particular census of 2020. I would love for you to provide a source, well-funded, well-established, that can be reviewed, that tells us that there's 10 million Afro-descendancy or more in Mexico. What I can
Listen,
is that there is a mixture between indigenous and Afro roots as well as European roots, and that is something that is repeatedly established throughout all Latin America in many ways. But ignoring the fact that there are populations that, due to the political caste system that the Spanish set up during the colonial periods, they also experienced clear isolation that enabled then a continuing line of genetics in that sense. So admixture is not something that is absolute in Latin America, as well as isolated indigenous as well as Afro-descendancy of slaveries also had isolated populations happening, and that it's far more nuanced. So that point, and just to top it all, to come and say it's the most racist country of the world and just give us anecdotal, I had a friend who went and told me type of thing, does not actually help analyze the situation. Because I'm coming here with facts. I'm coming here with knowledge. I'm coming here with sources. In fact, just on the recent AMLO, on the AMLO presidency, are you aware who Yolanda Camacho was or is? And what the presidency of AMLO presented upon Congress during his period? Yolanda Camacho is one of the major Afro-Mexican leaders who, alongside the as a civil aspect, presented with AMLO's government a clear recognition of Afro-Mexicans in the Constitution, which would then enable a more in-depth study in the realities, etc., and would give that constitutional recognition, which is, yes, that Mexico has had. But then to tell us Mexico is the most racist, not understanding how racism works in Latin America, and that combination of internal racism with the exploitation of racism made in the United States, I find disingenuous the whole analysis. I'll keep quiet now. Go on.
okay, what I find disingenuous is that you're using a tactic. Can you hear me okay?
It's kind of crackling though. You're on your Obama phone,
Okay.
because it's
Can you hear me a bit can you hear me a bit better now?
yeah, you hear you just crackling because you're on your Obama phone. You can't help it.
Yeah, I'm on this Obama. Look, what I find disingenuous is that someone would come to me saying, "Oh, you need to state facts and sources and all this stuff." Here's the facts. The Mexican census found that about 2.5 million people in Mexico identify as Afro-Mexican. You already said that a lot of people don't consider themselves Afro-Mexican because they're not educated about their history. 1. 2, 2020 was the first time Mexico ever did a census of its Black population. Now, even Dianus, anyone with a basic third grade education could tell you, when you do a census for a part of your population for the first time 4 years ago, 5 years ago, well, 4 years ago, they're not going to all get counted. So if you got 2.5 million who actually did it, it's taking into account the amount of these people who are illiterate, taking into account of the amount of these people who are unreachable because they're living in rural areas, taking into consideration the amount of these people who will say, "I know Black, I'm Mexicano," or something like that, and are Afro-descendant but don't identify as that because the negative connotation surrounding it. You know good and damn well that those numbers are not accurate. So if you got 2.5 million, you can just easily assume that it's probably double that at least, when you consider that the majority of people in Mexico don't even the majority of people in Mexico, or a huge number of people in Mexico, don't even do the census. A huge number of people in America don't even do the census. In America, most people are literate. You go to Mexico, in those rural areas, most people are illiterate. So they can't even fill out a census report if they wanted to. On top of that, you're trying to talk about progress out of one side of your lips, but on the other side of your lips, you sit up and admit to blatant corruption. You sit and admit to blatant discrimination. All I'm telling you is, Brandon, you say, Brandon, we need facts, evidence, and all this stuff. You're asking me to give you evidence from a bunch of racists about a group that they've discriminated against based on race. What racist group is going to give you accurate information about a group of people that they've been discriminating against for like 200 years? That's like asking the United States to give you accurate information about the Native Americans, bro. Like, give us accurate information about every piece of land you took from them and every shady thing that you did to them. No, you're not gonna. Well, you might get it from the United States, but there's gonna be a lot of stuff omitted. But the United States has also made leaps and bounds in dealing with institutionalized racism and discrimination. Mexico has done nothing to address the situation. They don't even count their black population. That shows you how uncommitted or non-committal they are when it comes to dealing with discrimination against these people. So I get it, nice try. I get what you're trying to do, but it's not gonna work. That's like telling me, hey, Brandon, go in this library that all has the same book. It has only one book, and get me some information to support another literary work. It doesn't work that way.
Let me counter and let me show.
And then after you counter, I'm gonna pass the complex. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so simple, Brandon. First, the tactic you utilized in the grabbing the historical problems that Mexico has had towards African-Mexican populations, then twisting that and parting from a possibility or a supposition isn't enough to then justify a whole rhetoric that tries to then deposit the issue on saying, well, they're shitty. And that's your whole base point. Because A, recognize the fact that, one, the constant and systematic work on the civil societies, especially on those of African-Mexican communities, have given great fruit in regards of the advancements that should happen and has happened in Mexico in regards to those populations. Two, those efforts of civil organizations alongside elected officials, it's not perfect. There's still too much shit to do, and there's still so much elements to continue progressing towards. So, fact of the matter is that the census of 5 years ago, the 2020 census, it was the first time in that greater recognition of Afro-descendancy of slavery. But if you analyze, I would say, 100 years of census in Mexico, those concepts were incrementally there. Yeah, again, the argument for you to say, oh, well, it's shitty, and that's it, end of story, it's absurd, without actually exposing the works of, like somebody I brought, Yolanda Camacho, for example, or the works of many in the last 100 years of people within Mexico. And hell, I could go outside of Mexico. I could go throughout the 7 countries of Central America. I could go to South America, and I could go to the Caribbean and start pinpointing exactly what problems and what attempts of solution, as well as solutions that they have reached in regards of different problems. That being said, I consider that it would not be up to you to just indicate the internal problems of racism of Mexico without acknowledging that there is more nuance, and one of those part of the nuances is what I brought. The mixture of the exploitation of racism made in the United States towards Mexico that then combines with the already internal problems of classism, aka racism, ethnicity, etc., prejudice that happens within a particular country.
Did so? You're not even Mexican. If I
But
remember you, I remember you. You're
hey,
not even
Brandon,
Mexican. You're like a Panamanian living
Latin
in
American. I'm a Latin
You're where?
American first. I'm a Latin
You're
American first.
Panamanian living
hey,
in
guys, let me
Puerto
pass
Rico.
let me pass it to Complex. Go ahead, Complex. Unmute yourself. You gotta unmute yourself.
What up, Brandon? Yo, Dinus.
What's up?
What?
I said, what's up? I said, what's going on, Brandon, man? I'm actually finding myself agreeing with you in part once again. That trips me out. But I also agree with a part that how do you say that? Disto or disco? Which way you say that?
It's Ditso.
Disto. No disrespect meant, okay? Disto. All right. So I am the father of Afro-Latina daughter. Her mother is from Mexico, but it's not even Mexico. San Luis Potosi. She's a great woman. So we did what I do. We did the DNA test, more than one. She came out with 7% Senegal. Her mother, which showed me that Africans have been to Mexico or Mexico. Also, it shows that she shared the history with she's Azteca, Aztec, and she taught me that the president, I believe Vicente, is part also African. And I'm about to get on to the topic of the show, why I moved there, but I just want to go through a little history.
Are you saying that she's 7% African? That's all?
Yeah, on that test. That's all. But she's majority what they would say is Native American, because Mexicans have been as far north as as Texas, California, so on and so forth, which is pretty much named after them.
So when you brought up her 7%, her being 7% African, what are you trying to say?
It tripped me out to see, is what I'm trying to say.
Do you know like like a lot of white people also have like 4 to 5% or 7% African in their DNA?
Actually, as a person who studies DNA and I'm growing my DNA company, I wouldn't say that much. I hear you, but I ain't seen that, and I'm just telling you. And it's like, nah. Some in America, yeah. When they come to mix, anywhere you go where you mix, it could be that, but 4% in most of the tests I've studied for whites, I actually haven't seen it, to be honest with you. 4 is big for them. 1%, more than likely. 4, I'm just on the edge with that one. But I'll accept what you say on that, but I don't think the majority is going to reach over 1 to 2%. However, I agree with you. However, though, I wasn't making a big point about that, but that just showed me that Senegal, I'm like, how does Senegalese get over here? But, so that goes to my point, though, that I'm about to make. The Spanish are the ones that started that kind of racism and caste system over there. They did have their own caste system as far as Aztec Inca history, but it wasn't like the caste system that was brought over there from Europe, which we all, even African people on the continent, have to deal with. That caste system they brought is wholly different. And I want to bring an understanding to that. Spanish people are still European. Do we all agree or not?
Yeah, well, Spain is European. It's Spain is Mediterranean European.
Right. So they brought something over there that they brought to the north, that they brought everywhere across the world. So what I don't want to do is step on the toes of truth. This racial system that the West deals with is wholly from Europe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we agree on that 100%.
And I'm agreeing with you on that, Diesel. But I see Brett, but I still agree with Brandon partially on his point, which is
And
now, did she tell me that there is racism amongst Africans? Because St. Louis Potosi does have a lot of African Mexicans. Actually, Brandon was right about them living on the outskirts, because St. Louis Potosi is nowhere near anything like super urban. So Brandon was not wrong.
Like I mentioned.
Go ahead.
And you were talking about Vicente, President Vicente, right?
Yes, go ahead.
That's Vicente Guerrero, since 1782, 1831. He was a political and military Mexican. He was part of the insurgency against Spain in the War of Independence, and he was president on 1829 of Mexico. Actually one of the first Afro Mexicans to actually be president in the get-go of the independence of Mexico. For a moment there, I thought you were talking about Vicente Fox, because that's the model of Vicente.
Not Fox. No,
Guerrero,
president of Mexico. Because I want people to understand that I understand. You know, I majored in history for a good minute, and education, and so on and so forth. Got a couple degrees, but they don't mean nothing. But he was proudly Afro-Mexican. You know, Mexico wasn't around. He actually was the president when there was no Mexico. And I understand what you said, Diesel, when you were stating that Mexico is more a nationality than it is a race. And people don't get that. Not even, and no disrespect to Mexicans that might be on the call, but Mexicans don't get that. That's a nationality and not a race. So their first president is Afro-Mexican, and a lot of us don't study world history. I had to in my major. However, a lot of people don't even know that. And what we're dealing with is the European, once again, teaching us more than we teach ourselves about our own African history and where we've been, what we've done. Like the first president of Mexico is part of us. But that does not negate what Brandon is saying or what Dinus is saying on the topic of the show. Now, is it racist? Yes. Is it racist because of Spain? Hell yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's
I never
until they do something about it.
Complex. I think if I ask you, have I or
the point of the show? The point of the show is Mexico a refuge from racism for Black Americans. Are you going to escape racism by leaving America and going to Mexico? No. Mexico is more racist. Wait a minute. Mexico is more racist and discriminatory than America by far.
Hell no. No, it's not. No.
Hell no.
Yes, it is.
I would like to speak.
Let me speak, please. I just want to speak briefly, please.
Go, Jacqueline. Go ahead.
Okay, please. Okay. I'm going to answer this very, very clearly. There is no refuge for Black people anywhere in Latin America, because Latin America is more racist in a lot of time in comparison to white America. Let me explain why. The colonial experience of Black people and Native people under British rule was completely different than what it was under Spanish rule. You have a lot of problem, a lot of uneducated Black people talking about things they don't understand. So I'm going to put the information out there and be very, very clear. When you want to talk about racism, you got to understand something. Under British rule, there was segregation and the natives were annihilated. Under Spanish rule, because at the time the Spanish Empire was in decline, they didn't have enough money to keep sending troops down and put rebellions down, because you had rebellions for the native rebellions and slave rebellions. So what they did was this: they decided to Queen Isabella and the rest of the since we don't have enough money to send troops down there constantly. What we're going to do is we're going to institute something called a caste system, a casta. that would allow the Spanish European.
You don't know
Oh, we
nothing
lost
to
him.
talk about.
Let me pass it to Go ahead, Ace.
All right, so cool. So check this out. Latin America, there's only one thing he was accurate on, and that's that the Anglo-Saxons and Hispanics did things completely separately. First of all, there wasn't segregation in the Hispanic world. There was from the very beginning mixture of any and all three races, indigenous, European, and African. So they didn't segregate themselves. That's one. Two, and listen, we live in America. Y'all have been taught race. Y'all may not like what I'm gonna say, but race in America and how you interact with your identity and race is in no way, shape, form, or fashion similar or close to how it is in Latin America. Race in Latin America is not the first and most important thing when it comes to your identity. Another so yeah, from the very beginning there was the mixture of races and people. You will never see that in the Anglo-Saxon world. You will never see a person like Juan Garrido, an African, right, who was a conquistador that held weight going around conquering shit. And like him, there were others, right? You will never see that in the Anglo-Saxon world. The Hispanic world did not treat the other races differently or even close to how it was in America, right? The first interracial marriage in the United States was not in the 1950s. It was in Florida, in the Hispanic America. It wasn't until nearly 300-400 centuries, 400 years later, then the Anglo-Saxon America said, okay, we're not going to make it illegal anymore for race mixing. So the two is two night and day perspectives and attitudes towards race. Now I'm gonna make it very simple. I know America is very race obsessed and race baiting, and they use it as a crutch, and in any and all ways, in good ways, and it's ridiculous. It's race thing in America. Uh, Racism in Latin America does not come close to what it is in the United States. Period. Now, some of y'all may not. Some of y'all. I'm gonna finish.
No, I got Ace. How are Afro Mexicanos treated in Mexico?
There aren't that many Afro Mexicanos.
How are they treated? The ones that are there.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Well,
But they never
Brandon, let them answer. I'm just asking.
They are treated like.
How are Afro Mexicanos treated in Mexico?
They are treated like other Mexicans because the priority of your identity in Latin America is not race, it's your nationality, it's your tribe. The most important thing in Latin America is not race like it is in the United States. They are Mexican first, second, and third. Period. This idea and this paradigm, this perception of looking at someone and identifying them based on this color and race, that is American. You cannot go to these countries and apply this paradigm of seeing yourself based on race in other countries. For example, calling yourself Afro-American, this Afro-Latino thing, that's a new thing that they literally trying to apply the American paradigm on society and on your social construct of your identity. They're trying to apply that in Latin America.
Let me ask you, did they not try to whitenize Mexico like they did Argentina or
hold on, Prince. I really want to talk about this.
Hold on,
let me finish. Go ahead.
Did they not try to whitenize Mexico like they did Argentina and other Latino countries?
I wouldn't say they try to whiten eyes. You can't. I mean, you can marry and have kids with whomever you want, but there's a large majority of Mexicans that aren't even of European descent. Argentina, I'm familiar with what happened to Argentina.
I mean, right. So I'm saying like the face of Mexico, like do Univision, Telemundo, media, do they not try and whiten Europeanize it like they do in other Afro-Latino countries like Argentina or whatnot? Because you say they're not race conscious, but when you put on their media, I
wouldn't say like Argentina, because Argentina has a majority large European population, so that's not even They're not
Let's
even
not
lying
forget
on
the
that.
words of Alberto Fernandez,
There's a
last president.
there's
Hold
a
on, hold on.
reason. There's a wait. You hold on. There's a reason for that, Dinus. I keep telling you, these people keep saying there's not that many black people in these places. They only
I
started
said
counting the black
Argentina.
people. There are only.
Argentina.
Wait a minute. He asked you about the Mexicans, and you said there's not that many black people. They just started counting them in 2020. You have to be marginalized and discriminated against for your country to not even care enough about you to count your population. They counted the population and said, well, there's 2.5 million of them here. And that's only the ones who did the census. How many millions more never did the census? There was a concerted effort in Latin America to wipe out the black populations. Brazil has more African descendant black people than the United States. Let me say that one time. Brazil, smaller in land area, has more African descendant people than the United States of America. That's over 40 million. These people are all throughout Latin America.
You're projecting your American paradigm in your experience.
I'm giving you
when I tell you, hold on. When I tell you,
because you keep
no, you guys can't talk over.
When I tell
The
you,
host is speaking. Let Prince talk, please.
Hold on. So Ace, I want you to look at the screen I just shared. This is Mexican TV. Like, what do you mean they don't have an idea about race and Afro Latino? You're just all Mexican. Like this is Mexico TV right here, Telemundo. Like, can you explain this? These white Latinos with blonde hair. Like,
okay, yeah, I'm not. Of course, yeah, on TV, there's some of that. Okay, and that's and you're talking about.
Some no, there's a lot of that.
Let me finish. Hold on, and you're talking about Mexico. Now, when I tell you that like, let's compare Brazil, right, and let's compare Colombia to Mexico and the so-called Afro population. When I tell you there's not that large of a number, that's just the truth. The majority of Mexicans are mestizos. Now, if you go to Brazil, Colombia, now I will say, okay, there's a lot more significant amount of them. Now, it's not that Mexico wanted to marginalize them. It's not. It's just that it's not even a big concern.
There's two things I wanna.
Can I say something? Can I say something? I hate cowards. Can I say something? I hate cowards. I hate people who run from a debate. I don't like that at all. That's cowardly. Okay, when somebody runs away from debate, all views should be put online. Now, this issue of racism in Latin America, people have to understand what racism is. Racism is where your skin color, your phenotype is used to dictate the quality of your life. In Latin America, the most important thing is your skin color, your race. They literally imported Europeans into Latin American countries to wipe out the native population. Nazis after World War II fled to Latin America. There's something called colonial dignidad, where a bunch of high-ranking Nazis went to, like, I think was it Chile, and they went there and they molested like hundreds of children. I don't think people understand what happened in Latin America because we don't teach.
Nazis
we don't teach
ran away to Argentina.
Whoa, let me finish talking. Let me finish talking. Let me finish talking. Let me finish talking. That's not how you have a discussion. Let me finish talking.
Please do, and then I ask the floor.
Hold on. Let me just conclude. The thing you got to understand about Latin America is this: what made the racism extreme in Latin America is because Latin America does not have an identity outside European colonialism because most of the people there were destroyed. Like the way black people have chess grandmasters. Let me finish. The way black people have chess grandmasters and Nobel laureates in literature and economics and high-ranking people who have achieved something. They don't have that. The people that you're seeing in Latin America, let me finish. Let me finish. Jesus Christ, can you keep quiet?
Let him finish. I'm asking the floor. Let me finish. Let him finish.
Hold on. This is what I'm saying. I hate when I have a discussion on education. I hate that. Let me finish.
You
I was explaining
uneducated,
something
homie.
called the cat. Bro, keep quiet. And there's some that the caste thing. The thing about that caste thing is this: your skin color determines your social position in Latin America.
No,
Okay.
don't.
The reason why the Spanish did keep quiet. The reason why the Spanish did that
Talk all I want.
was because they didn't have enough money to keep sending troops to quash rebellions in Cuba and in South America. So what they decided to do was let the local Spanish soldiers mix with the native people, and they created a caste system.
Cap,
The
cap,
consequence
cap.
of that,
They've been
the
mixing since
consequence, bro,
1492. What are you
bro,
talking about, stupid?
can you please keep quiet? They killed
You're
140
spreading
something million native
misinformation. I
people.
mean,
Can you please? No, you don't have our library right here. This
you're
is free
uneducated, sir.
information on YouTube. You're not you're a
Free information on YouTube.
Hey, let him speak. Let him finish.
this is what I'm saying. That's how you can tell someone who wants to
You're a
deceive you.
self-hating
They don't let
clown
people
talking about
speak.
Latin America. Don't even know
He
your own history, stupid.
Hey,
He's a
let him
plant.
speak.
They plan him to deceive people. Racism is the culture of Latin America. They don't have any
No,
culture
sir.
outside of white
Racism
supremacy
is
and
not the
racism.
culture of
No,
Latin
it
America,
definitely is
dummy.
the
Bro,
culture of Latin.
Culture.
Let him
bro,
speak.
How you gonna
Talk
say
to
Latin
him.
America don't got culture? You a
uh,
self-hating clown,
Hey,
sir.
bro,
Stop talking
hey,
about you
bro,
projecting
I'm just
America
telling you
Princeton,
the
shit.
kick
truth.
out a
How you
Spanish.
gonna
Bro,
you say
this
Latin
is what I'm
America
saying.
don't got
Bro,
culture?
whatever,
Are you
whatever. Bro,
stupid? Are you stupid? Like you a clown, bro.
if you get on the plane right now, if you get on the plane, if you get off the computer, get on the plane and go to any African country, the millionaires there are going to look like me. The billionaires they're going to look like me. The doctors they're going to look like me. The engineers they're going to look like me. The attorneys they're going to look like me.
First of
People
all,
on the
you're not from
Supreme
any
Court.
of
Keep
these
quiet.
countries
Shut up.
to talk about these
Shut up.
countries.
Shut up.
Shut
Shut up.
up. Shut
Shut
up. You
your
shut up,
mouth. Shut
stupid.
your mouth.
You
The
self-hating
people
clown.
on
How
the
you gonna
Supreme
talk about
Court are
Latin
going to
America?
look
You're not
like
from
me.
Latin America,
Okay,
stupid.
None
okay.
of those
Hey,
people.
Sean, if I can
None of
interject,
those people.
hold on, Sean, it's the host. Let me interject, and that's the point I'm trying to make. When I go to these Latin American countries, I look at Afro Latinos. They don't have anybody that represents them in these places that you're mentioning. But you can at least say in America that there's black people that look like
They
me.
don't.
They're in higher places. And
Well,
these Latin American countries, like specifically Mexico, it doesn't exist. They're all white Latinos. So Sean, you're right.
Okay, hold on.
Diners.
I want to
That's
address a
cap.
couple
Are you
things
from
here.
these
Bro, this is
countries?
this is
Get,
this
yo,
is the
Hey,
get
thing.
people
Sean, let
from
me
these
know when I'm
countries and they
finishing.
will tell you.
Bro, this is the thing I want to say. This is the thing I want to say that's so insidious about this. They think people don't understand it, but it is. And he keeps interrupting because he doesn't want me to tell you the truth because he's afraid. Look, this
Afraid of
when
what, man? You
the
capping, bro. Like, how you gonna
Spanish
say Latin
the
America don't got
Spanish. Oh,
culture?
can you shut up? Can you shut up? Can you shut up and let me speak? This when the Spanish instituted casta. What that did is it made a caste system. So the
Sir,
white
they were
Europeans. This
mixing race from
can you shut
1492
up?
and
You're
onwards.
lying.
Hey,
You're
That's
hey,
not
hey,
when
lying.
hey,
they were
hold
You're
on,
mixing.
hold on.
lying.
Hey,
You're,
listen, guys.
you're
Nah,
lying. They were
I'm
not
gonna finish.
mixing. They were not
Go ahead.
They
mixing anyways.
mixing
They were
stuff
killing
because used to
babies.
be
Go ahead.
Can you shut your mouth? Can you
Go
shut
ahead,
your
Sean.
lying mouth?
you shut your
They were
Nice.
killing
Go ahead,
they
Moderate
were
the
killing
Sean.
native
panel, bro. Don't
people.
keep
Can,
interrupting.
this, this is what I'm saying.
Go
They
ahead,
were
Sean.
killing native people. Columbus wiped out like I don't know 3 million Tainos in Cuba or something like that. They were killing these people like flies. They killed like 140 million native people. The people that are from Latin America don't look like any of these people because all these people you're seeing, they're a product of rape. Okay, either direct rape from the Spanish soldiers, their great grandparents, or coercive rape, meaning if you want to be something in this country, you have to whiten yourself. And up until this day, all of them have that complex with them. That culture is really still embedded in their culture because they're all a product of rape. They're not well, the president of Argentina is bloody and blue-eyed. Do you think the native people look like that? Look at Bolsonaro. And this guy doesn't think I've been to Latin America. I know what I'm talking about, but he's about to be shocked. Look, I'm not saying I've read Gonzalez. I've read Harvest of Empire. So their own people will tell you the truth. You get what I'm saying?
So,
There's just hello.
may I
You can
come
ask.
in
Yeah,
as a
you can
Latin
ask a
American?
question. Sure. Sure.
Okay, so look, Sean, as well as Brandon that asked me something before.
Sure.
I was asked, "You're not Mexican." No, I'm not. I'm Latin
Okay.
American. I'm Mesoamerican, and I'm from Costa Rica. That's how
Sure.
identity works here. It works
where?
in the in Latin America. Our identity
okay,
has worked. Oh, hold on. You've spoken a lot.
okay,
I want to ask you not to
okay,
interrupt. I'm gonna
okay,
address your points real
okay,
quick. So,
okay.
number one, our identity goes from a global, from an umbrella term such as Latin America. It goes then to a regional aspect, and then it goes to a nationality. And inside the nationality, then you have the notion of, shoot, I'm an Afro descendancy of slavery, I'm indigenous, etc. There were several things that need to be put on the table in a more nuanced level. Because in Latin America, and this happened throughout all the process of Latin America as well as in some parts of the Caribbean,
Oh,
to
yeah.
think that there was a utter and complete mixture of the Spaniard with indigenous or African slaves at that moment
Okay.
is not entirely accurate, because from
Can
the
I say?
get-go we start seeing. Sean, could you mute yourself for a moment? You have that tendency of
Speak.
jumping in.
Speak.
Sean, you have a lot of background noise also.
Yeah. So, okay. Yes, there was admixture in the whole process of colonization, but there was also isolation. And that isolation happened because from the get-go, we start seeing resistances from indigenous as well as eventually African slaves that started happening different forms of resistance. Most notorious, Tupac Amaru in Peru. Most notorious, Pablo Presber in Costa Rica. And I can go on and mention many other more, but just to give those two examples out of the top of my head of resistance that enabled the recuperation of land from Spaniards and isolation of the indigenous groups, as well as of Africans who were slaves at that moment. So there's far more nuance in Latin America. Something that I did take issue with is the comment, Latin America doesn't have culture. Bullshit. We have a lot of culture. And we have clear regional sharing of culture. For example, the Mesoamerican culture, which shares a lot of, for example, it has two major indigenous languages, which is the Nahuatl line of languages and the Chibcha type of languages. Also, for example, after the process of independence, to tell us, Latin America, that we are more racist than the United States. Well, the majority of Latin America abolished slavery from the get-go, from the independence. United States was one of the last 3 countries in the Western Hemisphere, aka America, to abolish slavery, alongside
Brazil
Cuba and
was the
Brazil.
last no,
Yes,
Brazil was the last country to abolish it. That's a lie. Keep talking.
Again, I said United States was one of the last 3 countries to abolish slavery in the United States, alongside Cuba, who had not become independent, and Brazil, who had become independent on 1825, but took about 60 years to concretely abolish slavery. Due to historical reasons that another day we can have that conversation as to why Brazil abolished slavery through the establishment of their constitution, but it took them 60 years to completely abolish it. That's an interesting and fascinating history in regards of Brazil. But neither Cuba or Brazil had to go to a civil war to abolish slavery. So, majority of Latin America abolished slavery as soon as they became independent from Spain or from any other European power that had control. B, once that happened and the abolishment happened, then you had a whole bunch of indigenous people, a whole bunch of African descendants of slavery who had been slaves, and then you had the mixed population. Like, okay, so we're free. We're no longer part of fucking Spain
Okay,
and the monarchy.
can I say?
What do we do?
Wait,
Can I
I'm,
get
I'm
it?
going next.
I think you're wrong with your last point.
Sean,
How am
hold
I
on,
wrong?
Sean.
Hold
on,
One mic. Let Sean go. I'm gonna let Brandon go. Then I gotta close out because I gotta go. Go ahead, Sean. I'll pass to you, Brandon, after Sean.
Well, I'm going to explain this very simple. When I say, this is the thing, he's getting confused when I say racism. I'm not saying like I know about like Oaxacan and I know about I know about indigenous quote unquote culture. The issue is who has power and who has the ability to move about society and do things. Like this is I don't want to have a retarded conversation. I want to have a conversation with people who know what we're talking about. Look, the thing you
Sure,
gotta
I think
understand
you're
is
jumping the gun on me.
no,
You're
no, no,
jumping the gun on me.
no. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay,
because
fine.
there was something I wanted
Bro,
to say. You jumped the gun on it right on it.
hold on. Bro, the thing is this. You're talking about a continent or group of people, a place, right? Where,
Where I'm from, where I was born.
hold on, where the skin color and the amount of European admixture, literally, and I think that's the nuance that people are missing. The thing with the British, because of the way the British did the situation with the segregation and colonialism, that meant that the native people had to literally bump heads with the British. It was everything or nothing. So the Indians had to face down the British, the Kenyans had to face down the British, Black Americans had to face down the British. And so that's the thing. The thing with South America is that allowing of Spanish people to mix with the native population and elevating the blood
Sean,
of the European. You get what I'm saying? That's the thing you gotta understand.
when have
They
I
elevated the blood
said
of the
anything?
European, and the consequence. Oh, let me talk. The consequence of that psychologically over decades and centuries, you still see that played out till today. What's the name of the baseball player guy? I don't even watch baseball. The guy from Dominican Republic who bleached the life out of his skin.
Sammy
I
Sosa.
can't remember his name.
Sammy Sosa.
This guy, even if I was born and I died 10 lifetimes, I probably still wouldn't be able to achieve what this guy's achieved in his life. But the fact that he felt that he had to bleach his skin shows you how deep this stuff is entrenched. Let me say this because people don't let me say this. But the Spanish people that were not born in Latin America, they were called Peninsulari. They held the highest position in the land. The Spanish people that were born in Latin America during colonial times, they were called Criollos. You get what I'm saying? There you have
Sean,
mulattoes, which is, can you please keep quiet? Let me finish saying what I'm saying.
Hey,
Then you have
you got 30
mulattoes.
seconds.
Let me finish saying what I'm saying. Let me finish this. This is important. Then you have mulattoes. Then you have mestizos, which is half native, half European. Then you have zambos, which is like half African, half native. So the point I'm saying is that rigid structure, these people, that's all, they don't have any concept of greatness outside of European admixture. Let me put it this way. If you watch Black Panther 2,
I'm sorry, but
the
that's
guy who plays Namor, the guy who plays Namor in Black Panther 2, Tenoch Huerta, there's a video of him talking about this same exact problem in Mexico, where only 10% of the Mexican population has European admixture. But if you look on the TV, on the newspapers, they're all Europeans. They're all white
Sean,
people because in their culture, they worship European blood.
Sean,
They worship these people.
give me a moment.
And they literally keep quiet. Let me make this.
Hold on.
They literally tell their children to seek. I'm talking about you. Yeah, I'm talking about your identity. They literally, bro. They literally,
wrong. You
bro,
stated wrong
bro.
things,
No,
and
no,
somebody
that's
has
not
to tell
true.
you
That's not true.
those things are wrong.
That's not true. That's not true. That's the reality.
So, hold on.
They literally
First,
tell their children to seek. Bro, keep quiet. Let me finish. They literally tell their children to seek. No. They literally tell their
I
children
have three major
seek
contestants.
out and breed with white people. It got so bad after World War II, they were so desperate for European DNA that they would allow Nazis and war criminals to run away from Italy and Germany to come into their countries. They gave these people safe haven. They allowed these people to commit multiple atrocities. And that caused a lot of problems for Latin American countries in Argentina and all these places down. This is why you have all these hardcore military dictatorships pop up in Chile and Augusto Pinochet and all these Nazis.
Yeah, thanks
These
to United
things
States
have
also.
negatively, bro. All these things
United
have
States is
negatively
guilty
impact,
of pushing that.
bro.
Sonny,
Bro, you
Sonny,
cannot compare.
I gotta pass
it's
the
my
mic.
turn.
Let me pass
It's
the
my
mic to
turn,
Brandon
man.
before I close out. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Brandon.
Listen, Sonny, I want to say you're 1000% correct,
We have entered into the age of revisionist history where people deny the negative aspects of where they're from. Another elephant in the room that nobody wants to bring up to prove that Latin America is more racist than America is the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church had its own slave trade. The Catholic Church openly preached for people to discriminate against Black and Indigenous populations.
True.
These people were, like you said, Sonny, worship whiteness. Dinus just gave us an example of Telemundo, Univision. United States has more Black representation in different areas than Latin America down to this day. You have hundreds of Afro-Latino musicians, actors, directors who openly speak out against the constant discrimination that they face for not being heavily mixed with European blood. We're not going to, in 1 hour or 2 hours, change a history that has been around for almost 500, 600 years. If you go to any Latin American country, you will see that this leaning towards European whiteness and this preferential treatment and desire for it is very evident. If you are a dark-skinned, blue-black person in a Latin American country, you are, bro, in Brazil, they call Black people Miguel if you're big and Black. What the hell is that? Go to Brazil, Carnival. Yeah, you got some Black representation there, but overwhelmingly, the Black populations are frowned on. They're discriminated against. If you tell them send a Brazilian to America as a representative, it's going to be a white European-looking person who's coming over to America. And though, you're not going to be able to erase that just because you don't like the way it tastes. It is that's the way it is in your place.
I just want to say no. You can't contest this because that's the truth. I want to say something. The civil rights.
Hold on, I'm the Latin American here.
The civil rights in Brazil was caused by an African American woman, an actress who came over there. Right, she came over there after 1964, and they discriminated against her, and that raised a whole bunch of political outroar. Okay. She's the reason that Black actress. She's the reason that they passed those laws in Brazil that were watered down laws. Anyway, you can never compare. The U.S. is less racist than Europe.
Bullshit.
And Latin America. The U.S. is less racist than Europe.
I agree.
You don't understand how.
I agree.
You don't know how big to Europe. You don't understand.
Wait, Dinus, you agree with what?
I agree that the U.S. is less racist than Latin America.
No,
really?
No.
For real,
U.S. is more
Absolutely.
racist than Latin America. Plus, it aggravates the conditions of racism in Latin America, but it's because it exports. But I have to contest several things. I find pretentious, and I'm sorry, Sean, but I have to call it out. For you to try to explain my history and my reality, and the fact of the matter that I majored in Latin American history, to me, I've never denied the issues of racism. You can go back to the beginning of the video. I explained it thoroughly, how internal as well as the exploitation of racism made of the United States functions in Latin America. But you made a series of statements that are utterly and completely ridiculous. Because you tried to Eurocentrically explain my history to me, or gringocentrically.
Well, what you're saying is complete nonsense. You're just one person.
Hey, guys, listen, we always do a part two. We always do a part two, but we got to close out. Everyone, thank you for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family. Dinus Amir, search for rule. We can do a part two. Peace.